My wife worked as a cashier at a gas station and often came home exhausted, especially in the summer, when traffic on the highway became more intense. Because of this, she often refused to fulfill her marital duty, preferring to set aside this time for sleep. Sophia is a pretty prominent woman who, as they say, is in the juice. She has a great figure for her 37 years, a thin waist, and a size 5 chest. Perhaps that's why I'm still strongly attracted to her and wildly jealous of her, even though I've been married for 15 years. We lived amicably and quietly, but only until the authorities put my wife on a shift schedule. Since then, it's like she's been replaced. First of all, she changed her hairstyle and hair color. I took it calmly, especially since the white color suited her. After a couple of months, Sophia started visiting the fitness center and the pool in her free time, which had a very positive effect on her figure. I was glad she was having a good time, but something about all this confused me. One day, while cleaning, I discovered bright red lace underwear, which had quite revealing cutouts. It was from that moment that I started to get nervous, because she never wore such things in front of me. That evening, I asked my wife who this set was for. My wife lowered her eyes and quietly said that she was preparing a surprise for me. I didn't know whether to believe it or not. That evening I demanded to wear it. I was a little surprised, but she did not even refuse as before, but on the contrary, as if she was waiting for such an evil instruction. We were tumbling all night. Fortunately, my son was in the village. But this process brought me far from positive emotions. I think that many men will condemn me now, because my wife has since fulfilled all my whims in the bedroom, actively made contact herself, and looked incomparable. Every day she became more beautiful, while buying more and more erotic lingerie, various creams, and making bright, beautiful makeup. I was sure that the reason for such changes lay in the unknown admirer she had made for herself. But every time I asked her about the reasons for the change of image and such a violent craving for intimacy with me, she replied that she was trying solely for my sake. However, something didn't add up in the whole story. I secretly watched her correspondence on her phone, social networks, and email, but everything was clean. I took the details of calls and messages. It's also clean. Then I turned to my colleague, who was well versed in computers and various programs. Of course, I didn't tell him that I felt like a cuckold and wanted to check on my wife. A colleague downloaded the applications to my USB stick, explained how to use them, and gave advice on how to trick an antivirus program that can block the entire procedure. I couldn't find a place for myself all day, scrolling through various scenarios and possible outcomes in my head. As luck would have it, the boss overwhelmed me with work, which is why I returned home very late. I no longer looked at her computer, looking forward to the next day. Although my wife and I spent a crazy night together again, on the second day my suspicions intensified. She wore a low-cut sweater to work. Sophia had never allowed herself to do this before, even when we first started dating. I asked her why she dresses like that, to which I heard a strange answer. This way I feel more confident. Then my nerves completely gave out, and I demanded that she immediately change her sweater. That turned her on terribly and pulled me back into the bedroom. It was completely unclear to me what was happening to her, because before her spouse was completely different. In the evening after work, I immediately rushed home. With excitement, I downloaded the USB flash drive and took out a piece of paper where all the instructions were written down. After completing all the steps, I pressed enter and waited. I don't know. Unfortunately or fortunately, nothing new has loaded. I spent the whole night thinking, and it was only in the morning that I realized that she most likely had a second phone. Having searched the entire apartment up and down, I still did not find evidence that would somehow explain to me the reasons for such a change in my wife. The only thing is that I found a lot of literature on the topic of intimate relationships in her mailbox. I dropped my hands and became depressed. A close friend of mine noticed my agony and asked what was the matter. I shared my feelings with him and asked him what he would do in such a situation. He didn't take me seriously at first, only saying that he would be happy if he were in my place. When he saw that I didn't laugh, he apologized and asked why I just didn't come home early, as all spouses do. My mood instantly improved, because this is a great opportunity to immediately understand what is really happening. I took time off from the boss, citing ill health. He let me go without question, and I quickly rushed home. When I opened the door, I heard melodious music coming from the bedroom. I even froze in place in surprise. Opening the door a crack, I saw something that is not shown in all adult films. My painted wife was lying on the bed with absolutely nothing. To melodic rhythms, she squirmed on the webcam, holding a male object in her hand for pleasure. This surprised me very much, because I did not come across him during the search. Not wanting to see this mess anymore, I clapped my hands and shouted, "Bravo!" My wife jumped out of surprise. She hurriedly turned off the camera and cried in shame. I interrogated her, from which I learned that all this had been going on for 3 months. Some people even transfer money to her for such explicit video chats. However, my wife assured me that she was not doing this for the money. Such a pastime helps her to relax and gain self-confidence. Everything that the men who are on the other side of the camera want to do to her, she carries into her life and expresses herself in this way. I felt so sick at heart that I wanted to go outside and freshen up. My wife did not let me do this, and taking my hands, began to talk about how she loves me exclusively and never even thought of cheating on me physically. I tried to twist away to get out as soon as possible, but she wouldn't let me. I asked her why she needed all sorts of strange men to look at her for self-expression. After all, she could have danced for her lawful spouse. My wife wiped her tears, which were black because of the mascara, and looked at me. Taking a deep breath, she said that it did not give her the extreme that she gets from such video chats. I was shocked by what was said. After telling her that I needed to think, I went out onto the balcony. After lighting a cigarette, I tried to analyze the situation in order to figure out how to live on. Physically, she was faithful to me and amused herself in order to be liberated. And on the other hand, she shamed me. My wife promised to stop all this just so that I wouldn't file for divorce. After living apart for a few weeks, I realized that I really miss my wife. That's why I came back. Now we watch adult movies and experiment together in the bedroom.